Hello and welcome back to the Shed Geek Podcast. Here's a message from our studio sponsor. Let's be real. Running a shed business today isn't just about building great sheds. The industry is changing fast. We're all feeling the squeeze, competing for fewer buyers while expectations keep climbing. And yet, I hear from many of you that you are still juggling spreadsheets, clunky software, or disconnected systems. You're spending more time managing chaos than actually growing your business. That's why I want to talk to you about our studio sponsor, ShedPro. If you're not already using them, I really think you should check them out. ShedPro combines your 3D configurator, point of sale, RTO contracts, inventory, deliveries, and dealer tools all in one platform. They even integrate cleanly into our Shed Geek marketing solutions. From website lead to final delivery, you can quote, contract, collect payment, and schedule delivery in one clean workflow. No more double entries, no more back and forth chaos. Quoting is faster, orders are cleaner. And instead of chasing down paperwork, you're actually running your business. And if you mention Shed Geek, you'll get 25% off all setup fees. Check it out at shedpro.co/ShedGeek. Thank you, ShedPro, for being our studio sponsor, and honestly, for building something that helps the industry.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. Coming at you today from Metropolis, Illinois. Excited to have Joel back on the podcast today, and some of the cool things that we are stirring up here, trying to get done, trying to get accomplished. Just a couple ways to stay plugged in with us. If you guys don't know, give us a call, 618-309-3648. Email us at info@shedgeek.com. Go fill out a contact form at shedgeek.com, and we'll be glad to get back with you. Check out our Facebook pages. Give us a like. Give us a follow on YouTube. Give us a like on and a follow on Facebook. And go check out the Shed Sales Professionals page, where there's a lot of good information we try to help keep monitored throughout the industry. And for those who have Plane community members who want to listen, but they're not sure how, just give them this phone number to call in, 330-997-3055 for the Plane communities. And the hot item of the day, well, I always like to go back to my hats and just give a shout out to a builder down in, I think is it Lott, Texas, where Mark Miller's from, at Sunview Builders down there. He's been on the show before, and he's a great guy, and he has an awesome chicken suit that he puts on whenever he promotes his buildings. And you know what? He's just an overall great person to be around, and I thank him for giving me this hat so that we could talk about him here today on the podcast. But more than anything, Joel, welcome back. We've got some new and cool things that we're just kind of discussing, talking about, and that's why we wanted to get you back on the show today. But for those who just, never heard of who you are, what you do, give the audience a little bit about like an overview, maybe.
Yeah, certainly. So my name's Joel Oney, aka J Money. And for those that wonder where the name of my company came from, my middle initial is M. And when I was in banking for 25 years, I would sign my name, J.M. Oney, and it just became J Money. So when we were figuring out what to call this company, when we were creating it, we decided real quickly, well, let's just use my nickname, and it was easy and it worked. So that's where the name J Money comes from. I was in banking for a long time, got out of banking, and was helping some of my friends in the portable building space with financing options for their sheds. And next thing I knew, we have been financing thousands of many states. So I'm very excited to be back on the podcast. Thanks for having me today, Shannon, and really appreciate my relationship with you, the shared values that we have, the kind of friendship, business partnership, and just the way you conduct yourself and conduct your business fits real well and aligns with us. And so always glad to be affiliated with you.
Well, I echo those sentiments. It learned so much from you. I've got my desk with a clear, plexiglass cover over the top of it, and I stick all these papers underneath it. And one of them has the Man in the Arena poem that you shared with me, because I remind my myself of that a lot too. And you've just been a great mentor, just a great friend, and really a great resource and provider. And I love your ideas, and you're so far ahead of the game, in my opinion, a lot of times on like your thoughts and your ideas about watching business come together. And yeah, maybe that comes from having years and years of experience in professional banking, which leads you to the ability to help a lot of people through knowledge and through networking. And you've done a great job. And of course, a lot of people know you from being on the Steel Kings podcast and also being a title sponsor there. And we met you and the guys over there some time back. Jared, met him down in Branson, and this wonderful relationship blossomed, and we'll continue to be in conversation with him and love the the steel side of the business too, which you guys actually finance for. But we can get into all those good old boring details about bonus depreciation and all the stuff that you have all this extended knowledge about, and I want to do that. I want to. But I think what we're really trying to do is talk today about how you get to know someone and you're working with them in business, and then you find out there's these other opportunities and lines of opportunities to help people in different ways, right? And that's what I want to talk about today is the shed manufacturer and what are their needs and how can you help?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I found in life that if I can help others to be successful, then it brings success into my life. And all the years in banking, obviously we loaned, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to clients, and also had a tremendous number of team members and employees that worked for me in that world that I helped them to have wonderful careers where they could provide for their families. And so I don't know over the years what was more rewarding, all of the careers and lives that I changed with the people that worked with me, or the folks that we had as customers that we helped to achieve their dreams through financing their businesses. But what's happened, I think, a lot of times in any business where you're trying to help folks, we put payment plans in the hands of shed builders, and then they're able to sell their sheds more easily, right? We started off an RTO and now offer a more conventional consumer loan program. But what's happened is that as we've grown in closer relationships with the shed manufacturers, we found opportunities to help them with their own individual financing as well for their business, and help them to find banks or lending relationships that can help them to grow also. That's been just the next step in this rewarding journey that I've had in the shed business that started by accident, helping some of my friends finance their sheds.
No, it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of companies out there that got their start, in unique ways, and they've come on the podcast and they've talked about that, whether it be a first, second, or third generation shed builder, shed seller, shed hauler that it sometimes ran through all three of those verticals, sometimes worked in one and transferred over to the other. And I think it depends on, opportunities everywhere. So I think it really depends on your flavor, right? Like what you prefer. Do you like to be swinging the hammers, or do you like to be slinging the sheds, out there on a truck? Do you want to be, selling them from the office? I guess I don't know if you can sling one from the sales perspective, but we'll try to get that pun in there too. So it just, you take a lot of people, and this reminds me of like the origin story of the podcast, where I remember one fellow told me, where do I get more information and resources in this industry? And I was like, man, someone should be recording these things, right? Maybe make it a podcast or something. But it's like, then you can become a resource. You can become a network to try and help people. And the one thing I know about people is they like being helped. So if you can help them, especially at no cost, then it's a benefit. What are those areas? I mean, what are the needs that you see most of the time, you feel like, for a shed manufacturer or a shed dealer who's needing to get to that next level and just don't know how to make that happen?
Yeah, that's a That's a good question. And really, it's been a pleasure to serve people in the shed industry. There's so many nice people in the shed world. I was speaking, this morning with someone who sells sheds in the state of New York, and she was saying how she had worked late into the night last night and how much she just absolutely loved it. She said she loves this business, and which makes it just a pleasure to work with people like that. But we've seen that for shed manufacturers, especially, this business takes a lot of capital. It takes a lot of money to make a shed business, especially the manufacturing business, run. And it's usually in two areas. One is, how do I finance inventory? And the other area is, how do I finance my manufacturing facility? And some of these guys started off in some relatively simple surroundings, building sheds, but as their business grows, they've needed much larger, more complex manufacturing facilities. Same with the financing. When they started out, maybe buying a few loads of lumber here and there may not have stressed their working capital too much, but when you get multiple lots with inventory out on those lots, and as the sales grow, and you need to build capacity in your inventory of lumber and sheds, that can be a stressor for an operation. And so we've also helped some folks with some lines of credit using their shed inventory as collateral. So those are the areas that we're seeing where we can help people beyond just putting a payment plan in their hands for the end consumer to buy their shed.
This episode is brought to you by ShedSuite, the complete shed business management software. From inventory and quoting to e-commerce and delivery scheduling, ShedSuite keeps your whole operation running smoothly. Today, leading shed businesses are focusing on digital marketing and building their online presence because that's where the customers are. That's why ShedSuite now offers full-service marketing. Everything from ads, social media, and SEO to stunning websites, branding, video, and even photography. The best part? Your website pulls straight from your ShedSuite inventory. Update it once in ShedSuite and it's live. No more managing two systems like with WordPress or WooCommerce. Ready to grow? Go to ShedSuiteServices.com to learn more and schedule a call. Let's grow together.
I get calls. I've gotten several calls from people who are like, I want to get into manufacturing. And I think it depends on, your mindset. A lot of folks might start out in like on-site builds and want to get into the prefab side and the lure. And I'm not, I want to make sure that I frame this conversation the right way so that it's equally critical, but like equally promotional and fair, because me and you have both worked, in RTO space for some time. RTO is a very valuable like service offering for our industry.
It's vital for the shed industry.
It's very vital. It's very vital. And I would say, some may make the argument that, it could even be teeter-tottered one direction or the other. Now, I don't know who gets to make that argument on where its penetration rate needs to be inside of the industry. But what I will say is that like finance seems to be growing and becoming more conscientious to the manufacturer or the dealer who's ultimately selling these products. So it's becoming, I believe, more competitive. Whereas, we're at I feel sometimes the maximum amount of competitiveness that the RTO can take. We're almost seeing, portfolios moving and shifting. And yes, I'd love to talk with you about those things too. Or if you want to sell your company, look, whether it be the person who does the actual evaluation of your company down to who's like helping you get money for it. We want to be there to be able to provide that service. But I'm just thinking with rent to own and finance, like you need to see a little bit more of that come in. But the lure of the RTO company floor planning, or maybe giving the person like some inventory or some, in lieu of, their rent-to-own services. Very reasonable, approach. But sometimes maybe they feel like it's not disconnected enough, like it's what you would with traditional financing. Like, and I think that there's room for both, but I think that you're definitely working one side of that equation from the traditional financing route. And maybe not everybody just understands the difference in the federally regulated programs versus the regulated programs. Do you have any just like overarching thoughts on those?
Sure. Yeah. So maybe again, I would say that the rent to own, lease purchase contracts, whatever you want to call it, that is an integral part of the shed business, and that's actually where we started in the shed business. And like a lot of things, when an industry is young and first starts, margins are strong, and so eventually a lot more sophisticated players enter into the space. More capital starts to chase that returns, which then compresses the margins and or causes the players in that space to take other actions to try to get that deal flow, right? And so typically those actions have been, hey, we'll finance your lot inventory for you. We'll provide you with some payback on the deal flow that you send through us, or we'll provide some other type of service. And I think that obviously helps you tie somebody into a rent-own company or a certain manufacturer, which is okay. We decided that there was some other opportunities where maybe the rent to own was not quite as able to meet the needs of the consumer and the manufacturer. That the sheds just kept getting larger and larger, and some of those just didn't fit the rent to own space, or there was the build on site kinds of products. And so we searched the face of the planet for some other opportunities that would work well for those buildings that just didn't work well for rent own, or for that consumer that didn't work well for rent own. If a consumer has a 800 credit score, they might say, you know what, if all you have is a rent own payment, I think I'll go someplace else, right? So, but whereas with a more traditional, more reasonable interest rate that you would see in a traditional financing plan, that consumer might be on the lot and buy from you. So we just saw that there were some opportunities there, without undermining the rent to own that we were still doing at the time, in order to expand our business and provide some additional services for shed dealers and manufacturers. So yeah, definitely a great space for rent to own, and it's a valuable product because not everybody qualifies or needs a 7 or 10 year consumer loan, right? But that rent to own payment is available for all consumers, regardless of credit score, or regardless of situation. So I think that it's there's, but we just chose not to get into that race of compressing margins. We chose to try to innovate into some other products.
Yeah. And just for somebody maybe learning for the first time, maybe they didn't, experience a conversation with you at the Shed Expo, or maybe haven't, got a chance to listen to any previous podcast episodes. What are some of those products that you guys, currently do funding for right now? What is the bread and butter, and where does it meet, hopefully, our audience, which is seemingly growing into, this plethora of different people, not just sheds, but post frame and pole barns and like all these different things.
Yeah, you're right. And that's the other thing too. If it's a pole barn or a tubular steel building that's attached to the ground or has to be assembled on site, rent to own doesn't work good in that space, whereas our product does allow for that. It's an unsecured consumer loan. It's free to offer if someone wants to offer it for a 7 or 10 year term, and interest rates start around 10% because they are unsecured. It's not secured by a mortgage on the house, where you can maybe get a 6 or 7% rate, but it's much lower than maybe a consumer credit card or a typical consumer loan, which might be in the high teens or low 20s. And so we think it's a good product for those that have, good to better credit. And, you're typically talking to someone in the with a credit score in the mid to high 600s or higher. And for those folks, it's a great opportunity to have a different kind of payment plan, especially if it's a big building. A rent-to-own payment on a $20,000 or $30,000 building can be pretty stiff. Whereas a 10-year payment's a little more palatable to that consumer. That's kind
For
of the
sure.
space that we play in now, and we can work with anybody nationwide.
And that's the beauty kind of what we're talking about here is it's offering up multiple solutions because like some people are only going to pay cash. Some people are only going to, use rent own. Some people are only going to use traditional finance. It's offering the maximum opportunities for shed manufacturers or even post frame manufacturers or steel building manufacturers. I mean, there's a wide range of what falls under the word shed anymore. But
that is true. Yes, that is
maybe
true.
we didn't go wide enough. We called ourselves Shed Geek. Maybe we should have been Construction Geeks or something. I'm not sure, but I mean, you're a bit of a finance geek. You're a bit of a all of these areas yourself in your area of discipline that which you've worked. What are some things that you can give away here on the podcast that is like some knowledge? We talked about, bonus depreciation. We talked about just different things, things that people wake up every day and they think, I got to build a shed or a pole barn. They're not thinking about bonus depreciation, but you are because that's sort of your world. So give us some thoughts on maybe some things people should know, be aware of, or just pay attention to.
Well, yeah, first of all, I think that, maybe I would just scoot back to the fact that most of these manufacturers of sheds, again, if they maybe started off in a spare building that they had on their property and have grown out of that or grown into, needing something that's a much larger, expensive facility, a lot of those have been built or are being built in the recent years, especially as the industry consolidates a little bit, right? And so I think that offers a couple of different opportunities for folks. One is there's an opportunity to find really good financing. And that's not always all that obvious where to find that, right? How can you finance that building for the longest possible term at the lowest rate and best terms, and so minimum down payments and those kinds of things, or use other collateral as collateral for the loan. So those are things versus maybe a lease. And a lot of folks have chosen to lease their buildings. There are some companies out there that will basically buy the building and lease it back to them because, we were talking about this before the podcast started, Shannon. These buildings are 39-year depreciation most of the time. And if you can lease your building back with a lease to own, almost similar to a rent to own, but with a more competitive lease implied rate, it can take that from 39 years down to maybe 7 or 10 years, which allows you to expense that building much more quickly. And again, I'd encourage everybody to talk to their CPA. I'm a finance guy, not a CPA, about that, whether or not that would work well for you. But what we've seen here most recently under the One Big Beautiful Bill is the opportunities have expanded for bonus depreciation for those buildings. So what we're seeing now is more people, rather than leasing those buildings back from their financing partner or their financial bank or whoever they're working with, they're doing the traditional finance with a loan, owning the building themselves, and then determining what components of that building, if it was built after January of 2025, would qualify for bonus depreciation. And then they can accelerate the expensing of that building and bring down their tax liability very quickly. And that's what I get about as much as anything. One part's about finding the right lending partner with the best terms and interest rates. And then the other part is, how do I take this asset that we've put a whole bunch of money into and utilize it the best way possible to minimize our tax? Hopefully I haven't put anybody to sleep with that talk.
You kept me hanging on for just the right amount of time. This is an example of when my wife tells me, "Were you talking about sheds to that person on the bench in Walmart?" And I say, "Yes, I was." And she's like, "Yeah, they looked very bored." And I was like, "I know, but I'm still excited about it." And this is what happens whenever you become disciplined in a particular area of expertise, if you will, or at least knowledgeable in some way. I always like to say there's people who know so much more about this than I do, and that's why I like to interview them, and that's why we're inviting you on. There's an invite to all of you. I don't care if you compete. I don't care what it is that you do when you're in this industry. We're better together. So we're better whenever we communicate, and we're even better when we challenge each other. I think that's welcome here in a professional setting. I think that's okay to sort of challenge, but
when your business depends on getting materials fast, you can't afford to wait around. At Three Oaks Trading Company, we get it. Your production schedule moves fast, and so do we. From studs, SPF, and SYP, to all your panels, siding, and flooring. Square edge or tongue and groove, OSB or plywood, we're stocked, ready, and delivering across the U.S., often in just 3 to 5 business days. Our team specializes in serving shed builders and manufacturers, providing the products you need when you need them. Because your next build shouldn't be waiting on a delivery truck. So if you're ready for reliable service, quick turnaround, and a partner who understands your business, reach out to Three Oaks Trading Company today. Call 833-214-1723 or visit threeoakstradingco.com to get started. Three Oaks Trading Company. Fast, dependable, built for builders.
I'm thinking to myself, like, there's got to be something coming down the road. There's got to be something, that we just didn't see. And I don't know what it is, whether it's the tariffs, the change that the conversations we're having in the background on, oh man, sheds, metal buildings, actual components on some of these products. I mean, there's obviously a shift in the world right now, what's happening in Iran. I mean, how that affects ultimately our economy, how it affects a lot of different things. As someone who spent, a large portion of your life forecasting almost these different things, give us a look into your crystal ball and give us your best thoughts on what are areas to protect ourselves, what are areas we need to be thinking about. I mean, that was a good riff that you just gave us on bonus depreciation and being able to actually help manufacturers. What look into the crystal ball? What do you see? Anything?
I think it's I told people long ago, my crystal ball is not broken. It looks more into the past than in the future, because I think typically the past will guide us in many ways. And I think even back to just the near past, Shannon, again, talking with shed people just this week, we were talking about how last spring and early summer was pretty slow. It's pretty darn slow, right? And the reason being is that there was a lot going on. There was tariff talk at that point in time. People weren't sure, okay, was this going to affect my job? Whether you were selling sheds or furniture or houses, things slowed down. The consumer sentiment was really low because people were unsure. When there's uncertainty, that causes people to maybe sit on their hands a little bit. And so that's probably the thing I'm most afraid of with what is going on in the current news, especially with the cost of oil and how that translates into gas prices. Somebody may not care if they're paying $5 for a coffee at Starbucks, but if the gas goes from $2.99 to $3.59, man, they get excited, right? That's something that causes them to think the world has changed. And so I think that that's probably just with current news events, the thing that I would pay the most attention to is consumer sentiment and how that is either making people sit on their hands and waiting to buy a shed or whatever other kind of consumer, item they might decide or not decide to buy because their gas price went up. But the other side of that too is that is inflationary. Energy is one of the biggest components to almost any industry, including the shed industry. So there's going to be some inflationary pressure that oil does stay high. So I think those are the things that I would say. None of that predicts anything that might happen in the future, but I think those are the things we got to watch, right?
Well, it certainly makes you think about it. Those budget items like fuel, that versus that disposable income on that coffee. It makes you think, but at the same time, I mean, it's the ebb and flow of business. It's been happening, before most any of us even got into the shed industry. So it's about adapting to it. And that's why we got excited about the consultation stuff that we're offering. I really feel like we got some of the best in the business by being able to like jump in and like try and help out. Now, giving good advice, the assumption is that we're giving it. I like to think it is different than taking that advice too. And I know that from my own experiences, it's as important for me to change my mindset around a thing than it is to try to change the thing. I mean, one of my favorite questions is, prayer. I've talked many times over Philip Yancey, and I understand Philip's been in the news over some negative things or whatever. But one of my favorite books is, prayer doesn't make a difference. And one thing I remember in that book that he talked about, which was a life-changing book for me, was, does prayer change you or does it change God? It's one of my favorite questions to answer or to ask, because most of the times I think we find that the answer to that prayer is that something in us needs to move. And that's what we've uncovered with a lot of our consultation. Everybody's marketing heavy right now. They need marketing questions. And it's like, well, are you doing finance? And they're like, no. And I'm like, man, well, why not? Like, why not offer that solution to the customer? If it's because you have bad timing and you don't have the time to do it, I mean, like, you've got to find a way to do it, right? Like, you've got to find a way to offer these alternatives, because maybe you're losing a deal and you're not seeing shed sales, because someone's taking a market share because it's financing. Maybe they're doing something different in marketing. Maybe they're offering rent down. Maybe it's their delivery process is better than yours. Maybe there's a plethora of things that you have to uncover to figure that out. But one thing's for sure, why not put your hands in the toolbox and be able to pull out every potential solution to help your customer?
Yeah, it reminds me of a conversation I had with a wise man a long time ago that was an elder in our church. And he would say to me, he'd say, Joel, there's always room at the top. There's always room at the top, which basically what he was saying is that if you're the best in any given industry, there's room to continue to grow, right? If you're not the best, you're someplace where maybe there's not room to grow. But if you're at the top, there's always room to grow. And he said, to me many times, Joel, there's always room at the top. So I think what you're saying, Shannon, is we always need to be on this kind of self-improvement kind of cycle, right? How do we re-examine our business all the time to figure out how we can be better? And doesn't mean that we have to change our business mode or what we're doing to go from selling sheds to selling, who knows, something different, right? But how do we do the very best that we can in whatever given vocation we've chosen in life? And that's what we, I guess, try to do in our business. We figure if we can be the very best at providing some financial tools for folks to be the best that they can be in their business, then hey, we're doing the right kind of work, right?
Yeah, no, that's right. I think that's good. I know that you're time sensitive here, but I wanna just ask a couple more questions, and like maybe if you'll allow,
That's all right. I've got some time, Shannon.
Who does J Money partner with? I was sitting here thinking to myself, like, yeah, we're talking to manufacturers out there, we're talking to dealers out there, we're talking to builders, but even RTO companies, maybe they need an option, maybe they need an alternative solution, just to kind of help on those. Can they be a partner?
Oh yeah. With some of our best referral networks come from folks that are in the RTO business. many times there's things that they are unable to handle with their rent to own, and so what we do is we will handle the things that don't work for the rent to own, right? So yeah, that's a great referral partner for us. Folks like you who have a lot of relationships are great partners, um, and even we find that some of the folks that are in the industry that are fantastic, successful um, sellers or manufacturers of buildings, they then refer us to others that we've helped. It's a great industry to network in, and I understand that you've found maybe some new unique relationships that have come into the Shed Geek fold here recently as well with some partners. Is that right?
Introducing the Challenger, the revolutionary new shed mover that's taking the industry by storm. The Challenger features a touchless design, ensuring it only makes contact at the end of the skids and the bottom of the floor joists, so rest easy knowing your gable walls will remain pristine. Worried about reliability? Fear not, the Challenger is always up for the challenge and will not overturn or scuff your shed. Harness the power of innovative wireless technology. Remotely control the Challenger via your smartphone. No cell service needed. And guess what? The cell phone remote comes standard with every Challenger at no extra cost. Featuring floating forks, a 4-directional tilting mast, and sliding weight transfer, move the shed weight precisely where you need it to get ultimate traction. With self-loading capability, straight onto your truck, say goodbye to the need for a hydraulic carriage. The Challenger makes your job easy and more efficient. Choose from 2 machine sizes, 10,000 pounds and 15,000 pounds. Perfect for any job. Visit www.shedchallenger.com or email us at info@shedchallenger.com or call or text 828-220-3508 for more information. Experience the future of shed moving with the Challenger.
Yeah, very, very excited. Of course, we work exclusively with you guys on the finance side, and we want to continue to promote that as we go. But our friends on the CRM solution over at Velocity 360, just someone I met 3 years ago and had him on the podcast. He was a salesperson. We were looking at coaching, and I saw watching his business just flourish and how he's kind of landed in the shed industry for much of his work. That's been awesome, and he's doing a great job from everything I hear. And Hirschberger Lawn up there in Ohio, another Ohio person up there in Millersburg, the Stryker hunting blinds and the Playmore swing sets, and then our latest is Pittsburgh Paint. Very excited about Pittsburgh. I've been talking to them for 5 years. I feel like since and so like that's an example of just never give up. If nothing else, like continue to harvest those relationships, and I really try not to leave them with anyone in an area where we can't continue a conversation. Try to be a bridge builder, not a bridge burner, right? And man, it's really worked out good because like we caught them at a time, and we've got other conversations in the mix, and we want to continue to like love on people who are loving on us and who are supporting us. Like it's very capitalistic, if you will, Joel, in the nature that we've been helping those who support us, and we want to support them back. Pittsburgh's been really good. Paint's the first thing you see on a shed, and excited about their True Industrial, True Max Shed program. Offers solid acrylics, semi-transparent urethanes. Shed Max stands out as the true industrial product formulated specifically for shed builders. What I love most of all, and it's just so easy for me to say this, local stores, local stock, local service. They come in, they help people. Very excited to have them on. Couldn't say thank you enough to Bryce and Jamie and Carter, just everybody over there's been excellent. They've been cool to deal with. And I could say that for all our exclusive partners, including you. And we're trying to create those long-term value propositions, for those who tune in and listen. Does it mean that other people are going to seek out other finance options or CRM or play sets or whatever? Sure, possibly, or maybe they're going to use a multitude of a couple of these different things or mix and match. But what's cool is we got this platform that we can tell people about those things. So if you're someone who wants to be a provider, an advertiser or something, we just went through, Joe, you'll love this. I mean, look, I had a rough third and fourth quarter last year. And I don't mean in listens. I mean, they were staying even compared to what they had been seeing year over year. But man, I don't know what it was in the first quarter and here toward the last quarter of last year. We went through a 7-week stretch where we saw more listens than any 7-week stretch at any point in the 5 years we've been doing the podcasting. And I'm like, man, every time you think, well, I don't know, have I burned out or whatever? We've just seen some amazing numbers and we're thankful. And that's given us new life to just, hey, let's go. It's year 6. Let's put our feet to the ground and just keep helping people is my mindset over here.
Yeah, and I got to believe that even some of your listeners, who knows, maybe today they're going through a little bit of that, how would you say, rut or lull or whatever that you went through maybe third and fourth quarter last year. And it's that perseverance, to continue on and see it through and just wake up and focus on the business that you have and that you do so well, whether it's building sheds or selling sheds or running a podcast or running a finance company. I think we go through those times. And I used to always tell folks when I was in the banking business, if they were in that kind of maybe a little bit of a lull in their career or they were having trouble hitting their goals for the year, I always said the same thing. I'd say, just continue to do the right things over and over and over again, and good things will happen. You didn't want to go and try to find a silver bullet someplace. You tried to continue to build the best shed that you can build, market it the best you could, run the best podcast, get the most interesting people on, right? All those kinds of things. Continue to do the right things over and over and over again, and good things happen. I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's been a pleasure. It's been awesome. And I really say thank you not only to the shed industry, but now the ever growing, post frame and steel buildings and who knows, carports and play sets. And, we've talked with chicken coop builders on here and greenhouse builders. And, we're probably going to talk with some furniture providers because a lot of these things have a common thing, in that they're backyard solutions or they're oftentimes the products that set outside the home that sometimes are large purchases, sometimes they're small purchases, but they're often bought from the same individual. And that customer acquisition is different from buying a poly chair to buying a, 16 by 40 shed or a, 150 by 450 post frame building so now there becomes a big conversation. And like I said, maybe Construction Geek made more sense, but we're going to keep it Shed Geek nonetheless and just keep doing our thing and having exciting and interesting guests on.
Sometimes shit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. No, I agree with you, Joe. It's just always a pleasure. I know that your heart is to help people. And I know if there's manufacturers out there, if there's RTO companies that need a finance solution, if there's companies out there that need a finance solution or need to understand their numbers better, if there's people looking to sell, if there's people looking to buy, like, hey, we want to be a resource for you. We want to be a network for you to tap into. And so give us a call. You guys have my information. I'll be happy to put you in touch with whoever. Final thoughts, Joel, before you get out of here and maybe stay on for a moment if you don't care when we hang up. I got just a few things and then, but final thoughts, to the audience here today.
Hello, shed sellers. Let's take a moment to discuss the shed customer and meeting their expectations. I remember growing up in the neighborhood where a certain percentage of the houses had well-manicured lawns and well-manicured homes. These were the type of individuals who felt it was important to purchase a well-constructed home or vehicle, or maybe equipment to help maintain the quality of the item. As shed manufacturers, we seek to provide a well-built quality shed. We want the customer to feel satisfied that their hard-earned money has been well spent on a product that will last. At LuxGuard, we believe adding high-quality rubber flooring to your line of sheds makes sense to the customer and adds value the customer can appreciate. With each year, sheds are becoming more complex. The customizations we are seeing are virtually endless. LuxGuard not only gives a complimentary aesthetic appearance for their shed, but also protects the floor from spills and keeps cleanup simple. Offer your customer the customer service they seek with LuxGuard. At LuxGuard, we are committed to delivering exceptional customer service and innovative products to help our customers achieve their goals. We strive to meet the evolving needs of the customers. To speak with one of our ready-to-serve customer product specialists, simply call 336-468-4311. To see our product and view an installation video, just visit our website at luxguard.com. LuxGuard, the floor that lasts a lifetime.
Yeah, 2 or 3 maybe final thoughts I would have, Shannon. First, thanks as always for having me on. Can't say how much I appreciate being aligned with you. And, I think the thing that has evolved is as J Money has helped shed dealers and manufacturers with their financing needs, now all of a sudden we're helping them with their own personal financing as well, whether it be a line of credit for their inventory or a loan for their manufacturing facility. So feel free to reach out to us about that. But Shannon, I think that the thing I like the best about our relationship is how we're aligned from a value standpoint. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate working with people who share the same kinds of values that I try to live by in life. And so if we can continue to foster a strong relationship with Shed Geek Podcast, we're happy to do that.
Well, I got to tell you, the Lord has been good and given us a lot of opportunity. And I've told people before, sometimes I felt like Judas Iscariot himself. We've just about walked through the most even imperfect people we've been. But I thought of something earlier, and it's the ability to always seek guidance, always seek His counsel, and come back, and say, Lord, help me, because I seem to make a mess of this or make a mess of that. But Lord, you always are the reference to good, and I can always measure myself against that to try and get better. And you said something earlier, and I wanted to jump on that, and that is, I remember hearing a pastor say, if you fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up. He said this 6 or 7 times, and he said, you fall down 8 times, get up and write a book about 7 ways not to fail. No experience that you have, it goes without. Everything you do and you put yourself out there, when you become the man in the arena, the Teddy Roosevelt poem that you shared with me, you truly become someone who's like not even afraid of failure, because you're trying to find a way to succeed. Everyone's going to fail. Everyone's going to mess up, but you're not judged, and history doesn't judge you by the fact that you had something hard come into your world or into your life, or even that you failed. It's that you didn't get back up. And that's the one thing I want to do, is always get back up and try and continue with the right people. And you're an encourager. You have been. I love sending people over because I know they're going to be taken care of with J Money. It's always a positive experience.
Good. Thanks again for having me on. And hey, let's go sell some more sheds today. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate everything you do. If you guys need any information, just go click on our newsletter. There is a clickable link there for you to fill out information to become a dealer. Just call me, text me, email me, write me a letter, whatever you need to do. We'll get you in touch. Means a lot, Joe. Appreciate continuing to move forward with you, and wish you all the continued success, sir. You deserve it.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks again, Shed Pro, for being the Shed Geeks studio sponsor. If you need any more information about Shed Pro or about Shed Geek, just reach out. You can reach us by email at info@shedgeek.com, or just go to our website, www.shedgeek.com, and submit a form with your information, and we'll be in contact right away. Thank you again for listening, as always, to today's episode of the Shed Geek Podcast. Thank you and have a blessed day.